Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker and I'm your host. And I'm excited to have a funny woman here today. We are going to talk about some serious things and how laughter and humor can help us to deal with some pretty serious changes and challenges and disruptions in our lives. Karyn Buxman is here, and she's a TEDx speaker, a successful author, and a brain-based performance coach. So we're going to hear more about that. Nurse and business consultant, and a neurohumorist. I think she made that up, but hey, I make up words too, so that's totally okay. She says she lives at the intersection of humor and the brain. As a global expert in strategic humor, for business, Karyn helps high performers go from great to mastery. From the Mayo Clinic to the $1 Million Roundtable, organizations around the world, they hire Karyn to educate, inspire, and entertain their audiences again and again. And she's also one of 260 people and only 55 women in the world to be included in the National Speakers Association Speaker Hall of Fame. I'm telling you, that's a big deal, people. So she's got a number of different books that are out there. Her latest one, Funny Means Money, Strategic Humor for Influence and World Domination. And she's got an awesome TEDx that you need to check it out. So without further ado, Karyn, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Penny. I love a woman with a great sense of humor and an entrepreneur. I mean, this is good. Your energy, I'm already feeling it. Feeling it.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I missed the mark. Like I always wanted to be like a humorist, or, Saturday Night Live totally motivated me. And I wanted to be, on Saturday Night Live. And I don't know, somewhere along the way, it just, I got less and less funny, or I don't know, it just didn't happen, but I'm working my way back now.
There you go. It can still happen.
It can.
I mean, Betty White got to be on SNL. It's not too late.
That's right. I'm holding out for that. So what makes humor important to you? And like, where did that come from? I said it was SNL for me. Where was it for you? Where did it begin?
I mean, who doesn't love humor? I mean, all of us love humor. But when I was teaching at a university and I went back to grad school, I just stumbled upon this little article about a nurse researcher who had researched humor as part of her dissertation. Mm. And I remember thinking, what? You could study humor? I mean, that if you got to be stuck with a research topic, isn't it grand that you could stay with something? And, my advisors at first were like, yeah, it's not professional enough. It's too vague. It's do this, just do that. But I was very persistent. And when I dug into this, it was a game changer. I realized, oh my gosh, how is it that nobody knows how powerful this is? Because what I've come to appreciate, everybody thinks that humor is about entertainment, and that is one of the purposes, but I've identified a couple of other purposes, one of which is well-being. How can humor help us cope? How can it make us healthier? How can it boost our resilience? How can it even improve our spiritual life? And the other purpose is influence. How do we use it to persuade? How do we use it to inform? How do we use it to inspire and motivate? And so, with entertainment, we're looking at the success is measured by laughs per minute. Whereas I
took a comedy class and I heard that. That's interesting. I never knew that before. Most people don't know that they LPMs. Are judged by laughs per minute. Okay. So LPMs. Sorry to interrupt there, but I wanted everybody
to jump right in anytime. I love this banter. But, well-being we measure by the quality of our health, whether that's physical, mental, psychological, social. The influence we measure by the quantity and quality of our relationships. How well are we able to build, to establish that relationship and rapport and all of those things. And so this was just like, I'm like a kid in a candy store. And so I get very excited. And I have also now been able to witness over the years through my own personal experience, whether it's been, my son was diagnosed with cancer when he was in college, and he's doing fine now, just in case I forget to mention that. My ability to be creative, my ability to problem solve, all of these kinds of things, even my lab work. My sister, who, God love her, she comes from, the other side of the genetic DNA and she's a runner and she works out and she's a vegan and she's intense type A personality. And here I am, obviously not a runner. I run in circles sometimes. I eat pretty much what I want, but not too intense. And I do intentionally use humor every day. And she gets so, this is something that very nerdy, but I mean, we compare lab work and she's so jealous because my lab work, every time I go to my physician every year, she's like, you should frame this, because it's a beautiful thing. And when my sister's like, why? I know that it is because of the intentional things that I do for my self-care, and humor is a huge piece of that intentionality.
So intentionally use humor. I want everybody to hear that and hear that again, right? Because like you said, we all run around in circles, right? For a lot of different things. And we say we want different things in our lives, but we don't intentionally focus on the things that get us what we want in our lives. So
right.
I call myself a focusologist. So my whole thing is about intentionally focus on getting us what we want, the 20% that gets us 80% of the results.
Exactly.
And I'm a firm believer too, that humor is way underrated in how it can be used intentionally. For health purposes, for joy, like everybody wants to be at a company that's fun, and humor makes things fun.
It does make things fun. And when you think about it, most people experience humor, they love humor, but it's always by chance. And my foundation is, how can we do this by choice? It's great when it happens by chance. Let's have more of that. But how can you make it happen intentionally, especially in today's world? And I hear a lot today, particularly because of all the extenuating circumstances, whether that's, politics, pandemics, global warming, whatever. And they're like, people are saying, there's nothing funny happening in my life.
Actually, I think it's hysterical.
And if that's your belief, then that's your reality.
Right.
Because your brain is going to give you more of what you focus on. And if you're doom scrolling all the time, and here's the thing that you may know this already, because what happens is when people are really focused on the negative, they get dumber. When people are stressed, we pull from our cognitive capacity. You can lose up to 10 IQ points. And I don't know about the audience here, but I don't have 10 points to spare. So it's like, how can we intentionally use humor? Because it has shown that researchers have shown that people who are using humor intentionally on a regular basis, they problem solve much faster.
Yeah.
They see creative solutions that other people just don't see. And so this is a really important tool for you to use.
Absolutely. And make different connections that we wouldn't normally make, right? When you talk about creativity and things, right? It's like exercise for your brain in the sense that, it's allowing it to pause in a way, but also exercise, like you said, and it really does hit all of those points. You mentioned earlier, physical, mental, spiritual, there was one more I missed.
Social,
right? Yeah. Definitely connects us socially. So give us some, I love the way you started your TEDx, right? You come out and you just laugh. And what's really evident is that, and we know this to be true, when someone's laughing and they keep laughing, we can't help but laugh too. So as you laughed, you'd hear the laughter in the audience, right? As the audience's laughter went up and started to build.
I was counting on that. I had a lot of colleagues say, don't do that.
Risky,
I was like,
right?
oh, maybe I'll get another chance. But I was counting on, again, neuroscience, mirror neurons. Our mirror neurons, when we see or hear, or best, both, somebody else who's smiling and laughing, our mirror neurons say, oh, we should be smiling and laughing too. And so this is this contagious effect that we can leverage. And so to be smiling and laughing with people that you want to interact with, you're making them feel better through the fact that you're feeling better.
Yeah. So tell us, some ways that we can intentionally use humor in the workplace and at home.
Well, first of all, get rid of the mindset that there's nothing funny happening, because it's not that there's nothing funny happening. You're just not in alignment with it. It's very much like going on the internet. I don't know if you've ever done this. I go to Zappos, I find a cute pair of shoes, and then I look at my budget and it's like, can't do that. And so I go to another web page and poof, there's those shoes, and I go to another website. Damn, there's those shoes again. And those shoes and shoes just like them are following me all over, because the internet says, you paid attention to that. We're going to show you more of that. Your brain is doing the same thing. And if you tell your brain, I want to see more humor, that be persistent, because your brain, it needs wiring and rewiring. So it may take a little bit at first, but once you experience that humor, neurons fire, and then you continue. And then because of that, you're next time a little sooner and a little sooner. And Hebb's law says neurons that fire together, wire together. Pretty soon you're going to see more and more and more humor until you're seeing it all the time. And so this is going to, again, boost your energy, boost your creativity, boost your ability to problem solve. It also decreases your level of anxiety and stress. And when we do that, so many of us are so focused on the negative things going on. Humor happens in the present, and it's our way of letting go, release, let go of the negative and be focusing on the positive. But when we do that, we can be more productive and we can have those better relationships. And just a minute ago, you mentioned, like, who doesn't like to have humor? And studies show, again, whether we're looking for a lover or a leader, humor is one of the top 3 traits that people are looking for. Now, good to separate the two most of the time. How it can get you in trouble. Yeah, ask some of the past presidents. However, when you are using humor in those relationships, when we're using humor here, anytime you're using humor with another person and they're receiving it, our brain is releasing oxytocin. And this is not to be confused with oxycodone. This is oxytocin, positive, also known as the cuddle hormone. And that is strengthening those relationships. And if you're trying to lead a group, you're trying to have engagement, you're trying to do sales, you're trying to lower the resistance, people's brains are on fire right now. They can't hear what you're saying. They can't receive your message, even if they want to.
Right.
And so it's up to you to lower that resistance.
Right. They're completely overstimulated, overloaded, right? Overwhelmed. I want to go back to the point that you said about letting go, because we had talked earlier that I wanted to share. I mean, one of the things that I talk a lot about when I talk about resilience, is that what's holding us back from truly being resilient is that we're really crappy at letting go.
Yeah.
And that being said, is our bodies are built to let go, right? We eliminate waste, we reproduce, red blood cells like that when we give blood, and we're just physically, that's the way we're designed. But we have this override mechanism in our mind because we're terrible at letting go in our mind. So I want you to go back to that point, because if that's just one little tip about how we can let go of some of that stress, how we can let go of a mistake that we made, an embarrassing moment that happened that we might, ruminate over and over again, or letting go of an insecurity, let's just, so humor can help us with all of those, right?
With all of that, and just kind of a little side note, something that you made me think of that I don't bring up very often, but you talk about the body letting go. And one of the ways we let go is through tears. Mm-hmm. Tears of crying and laughter are similar, but they're different than when you're like cutting an onion, because tears of laughter and crying contain exocrines. It's one of the ways that our body releases some of the toxicity that's built up. And so to cry till you laugh or laugh till you cry, that's the best of all possible worlds. But as you mentioned, in terms of letting go of tension, how fabulous is this? The way we are designed, tension-wise with the muscles, our bodies go through a period of tension and then relaxation. Have you ever laughed so hard that you had to lean over and hang on to a desk or hang on to a chair?
Oh, yeah.
And that is because those muscles are releasing the tension. I mean, my favorite evaluation from anybody that has ever sat in an audience came from a woman who said, "You laughed so hard, tears ran down my leg." Now, that is release, maybe to the extreme. However, to be able to get rid of that muscle tension, to be able to get rid of the exocrines in our body, to get rid of the inflammation from the cortisol that's built up in our body, to get rid of the anxiety and the stress. This is definitely a major release mechanism that leads us to better health and to better influence.
So what would you say to people who might say, well, you know what, that's really kind of pushing it down or pushing it away, right? I hear people say, oh, all these positive people, they're just this toxic positivity because they're just not really feeling things. Like, if I shift into humor, at a difficult time. My father died in a sudden accident when I was younger. And I remember like my brothers and I, we went to the supermarket and like we used to do funny things with my dad in the supermarket, like, take a sausage and bang each other on the head or something. So we did it and we laughed. And
Yes.
it relieved that tension. It didn't make the situation go away,
Right.
and it wasn't pushing away the fact that we were sad, but it allowed us to release it in a productive way.
Yes. It's a healthy coping mechanism because there's a lot of unhealthy ways that we can
Right.
cope. And during the pandemic, I recognized that humor can help us do four things. We can distract, reframe, relate, refuel. And,
Like
to kind of go through those quickly, distraction, this might be some of the folks who would say, oh, you're putting your head in the sand, you're ignoring the situation. My point is, if you're stuck in a situation that you have no control over, which is healthier, to sit there and ruminate about how horrible it is and create this toxicity throughout your body, or to give your brain a mini break, a micro break, to stop that cascade of negative neurotransmitters that are creating all this toxicity in your body, and to be in a more healthy state for when you can control the situation. So that's distract, reframe. Reframing, seeing things from a different perspective is wonderfully helpful. The downside of it is it takes a lot more cognitive capacity. It takes our brains a little bit more energy. So it's harder to get the brain to do that. However, good news, humor is a shortcut. It is immediately a way that we can reframe a situation, to be able to poke fun at something that is threatening us. Empowers us. It gives us the ability to laugh at the situation and see ourselves as victor instead of victim.
Oh, I used that exact thing in my TED talk. We're like
seriously
here,
sister. Boo.
Yeah,
Refueling, as we already talked a little bit about that refueling mechanism, because we started out thinking this was going to be a sprint, and then it turned into a marathon, and now we're in a fracking Iron Man, and so we keep pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling from our reserves. Humor can refuel and build back up those reserves in every area of our health. And then relating, as we mentioned, this is a connection. Victor Borg said, humor, laughter, shortest distance between two people. And so we utilize humor in all of those ways to help us regain control, to help us resume that power. As you mentioned, you saw that in my TED talk, humor is power, and it can allow us to empower ourselves to be our better selves and to be better, to serve other people, which is what most of us were called to do.
Yeah. I love it. And so ways that we can, I love those four different things to just have us understand all the different ways that that humor can support us and be that shortcut. I like what you said there, that it's a shortcut.
Yeah.
And we all like shortcuts, right? Everybody, their ears perked up and they're like, oh,
right.
Shortcut? I'll take
humor
that.
Hacks. Humor hacks. Right? So humorhacks.com. Actually, I do have that domain.
What do you do? So somebody says, okay, I get it. I see that. I can go online and I can look up some comedians and bring a little bit more humor into my life. What if they say, I'm just not funny. Like, I just don't have a funny bone and I'm just not funny. So what do I do?
I love it when people say, I'm not funny. And my answer is great. Because we go back to the fact that, if we're talking about humor to entertain, then we're measured in LPMs. And that's when you want to be funny. You never have to be funny to use humor for your well-being. You never have to be funny to use humor for influence, because you can leverage other humor. You can leverage other people's humor. You can leverage funny movies and cartoons and other kinds of things. You can tap into internal experiences. I mean, everybody who has a healthy brain right now, you have at least one experience that you can pull up in your life where you laughed. You had a great belly laugh. I can pull up dozens and dozens, but your brain doesn't know the difference between it happening now and happening at another time. And so when you pull up, I was talking to a group yesterday about sitting in an audience with my son, and it looks like he's 5 years old. It looks like the dog that it was a movie about a dog, and it looks like the dog is going to die, and the theater is deathly silent. My son jumps up out of his chair and announces to the entire audience, I've got an M&M stuck up my nose. It's like, oh my God, so mortifying at the time. Now I can think about that and immediately now it just takes me back to this state of feeling good, feeling funny. And so to have those ready, to be able to have that in your, I don't know if people know even anymore what a Rolodex is, but I have like a mental Rolodex, a mental file of things that I can access that absolutely make me feel good. And then I intentionally pull upon those on a regular basis. So, to have those kinds of things and to manipulate your environment to increase the likelihood of experiencing more humor. And that could be something on your phone. That could be something in your office. That could be another person. I have an accountability partner. And every day we start our day looking for humor that we can send to the other person. And at first I thought, oh, I'm doing this for her. But what I came to realize was that it was changing my days. It was changing the way I live my life, because now I'm starting my day looking for humor, and it totally reframes my day.
That's awesome. I love that. So two things that I want to challenge the audience to do and to implement, because really we want people to walk away with things that they can do right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So start your day looking for something funny and send it to somebody. Make someone else's day start with funny as well. So I love
Play
that.
it forward. Yeah,
I love that. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to
extra
start
hit
doing
of dopamine. Absolutely.
Love it. Absolutely love it. One of the thrills in my day is I have this cartoonist, and I go and I look for ways to create different cartoons, but but that doesn't happen like every day. So I'm gonna definitely do the everyday. And the second thing I want to challenge everybody to do is what you said, is to go back and think of 5 to 10 funny moments, milk coming out the nose, like bend over, stomach hurts, cheeks are just like, dying from like laughing so hard. Find those moments, write them down, and so that you have more access to them quickly when you need them. So I love those two things. It's things people can do right away. And then when you just went through it, you could probably review that every once in a while just to keep them top of mind, so that when you need them, they're readily available.
I have, Evernote. Because how many times have you ever been in a discussion with somebody and then all of a sudden you think, that reminds me of the time, and maybe you haven't thought of that memory in a really, really long time. Yeah. Don't lose it again. Write it down. And like you said, occasionally go back, reminisce over those stories, because they are a gold mine.
So you talked about neuroscience. I want to leave people with one more thing, and then I want to give them the ways to get a hold of you. So, I did some neuroscience, some behavioral psychology, and there's a thing called an anchor, right? Yes. So an anchor, if people think about like a particular song that brings them right back to like their, senior prom, that's an auditory anchor. The minute you hear that song, it's connected to, in our brain, anchored to that moment, and takes us right back. So what we can do with those moments that we find are so funny is remember them, get like really into it, like we're really there, and take something like, so what I do is I take my thumb and put it in my hand like this, something unique, right? Maybe it's pulling your ear or something. And people, you guys try this, is just get really, really into it, like really associated to that moment. Put the anchor into place, which means you just tug on your ear, and the more you laugh, the more you tug on your ear, and the more you tug on your ear, the more you laugh. And then stop. And then when you're really feeling bad, just tug on your ear, and it has the same effect.
That's a great bit of advice. And anchors are great, and to place cues in your environment that remind you. I even set a cue on my phone. Once a day, I have an alarm. Have you laughed yet? If not, time to take a break, push away from the desk and just give your brain a break. You will be more productive after than you did if you hadn't stopped and taken this little brain break.
Absolutely. This was awesome chat. I know we could chat all day.
Have to do this again.
For sure. So tell the listeners, how can they best get a hold of you?
I am wildly identifiable, as Mike Birbiglia would say. You can reach me at Karyn@KarynBuxman.com. I love connecting with people on social media, particularly LinkedIn. For those who haven't found yet those little bit of resources or little micro breaks of humor, I have some on a landing page called stressrecoverytoolkit.com. Would love for people to go watch the TED Talk. So by all means, and please reach out if you have any questions about how your life could improve using humor. Where two or more are gathered in the name of humor, I want to be there.
Awesome. Well, me too. Invite me along. Invite me along.
I will. Definitely, Penny.
Well, thank you again for all that you've brought here. There's so many nuggets that people can take away.
Thank you. Love the opportunity. Be safe, see funny.
See funny. So thank you, everyone. And it's your turn, right? Go away and do those things. Go ahead and make your list of funny. Go ahead and anchor them in so you can access them when you need them, and start your day with funny. And just do the 5-day challenge. Do it for 5 days and see what a difference it makes. Because once we start something and it works, hopefully we continue doing it, right? So thank you guys. Thank you everybody for being here. My name is Penny Zenker, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Penny.